Yep, King P here,
And S3E7.
and welcome to another episode of This Week in Metropolis. So, what I want to start off with is something that is not close to our heart. That's the wrong way of putting it. Certainly, it's using the technology that since lockdown we have been using on a daily basis, which is Microsoft Teams,
Mm.
which personal experience, we were relatively new to it. Before we both started working from home. And I think it's fantastic, isn't it, in terms of the way it works and so on.
Definitely, yeah.
Well, it's not this segment isn't just me and you talking about how great Microsoft Teams is. The reason I raise this point is the NBA have got a partnership with Microsoft, and what they're doing is using Microsoft Teams to allow basketball fans to actually virtually sit in the stadiums. So it's good.
No, so I was going to say, so you're essentially watching it from through Teams.
Through Teams, yeah. So if anyone doesn't know who's listening, Microsoft Teams is almost like a bit. Well, it's sort of a business version of Skype. It's video calls, messaging. You can share documents, that sort of thing. In the past, in the past month, so in early July, they released a part of Teams called Together Mode. And what it does is, if you're regularly having a meeting with multiple people, instead of just staring at little boxes of like their faces, it takes your heads and shoulders and puts you in a scenario. I'm not quite sure what the different scenarios are. But one in the article I read, it sort of gave examples. I think of like a room-like environment, a coffee shop, or like places that are more familiar to those meetings. So if at work you're used to being in a meeting room, it'll pop you these little sort of heads and shoulders on the seats in the meeting room so that you can talk. However, the NBA is using this by sort of twofold, really. It's so that with a lot of these sporting events, they've been playing to empty stadiums and empty things. They put big screens along the side of the court with little virtual seats. So it's like a little virtual stand. And what they're going to be doing using Teams is adding people. So it's real people, sort of buses of real people in the audience. So the players will feel like, in theory, they're playing with someone. But equally, if you're sitting at home and you're a ticket holder, you will be viewing the game from that seat.
And will the sound correlate as well? So will you get the sound from the fans? Because that's one thing, obviously, from a football fan point of view, which I am. In the actual stadiums, there's been a couple of grounds where they've actually had screens up behind the goals. I know Manchester City, for example, they've got two big screens, one either end of the pitch, with fans that are watching on a live stream. And there might be, I don't know, 20 fans on that particular screen. And they can't hear them though, so the sound inside the ground is literally just the players with their shouts.
Well, it says here the broadcasters ESPN and Turner Sports are repositioning cameras to include new angles for fans watching at home and microphones around the court to capture the sneaker squeaks and ball bounces they're used to hearing. And alongside the team's experience, fans will also be able to cheer virtually using the NBA app. So it's not actually clear whether they are
their sound will come
able
through
to participate in that way. Because it does highlight on there that there's a lot of potential abuse. You're opening up with these sort of things, and the term it uses in the article is if a fan goes rogue, they'll have
them rogue fans.
They'll be able to shut them down as such by having members. They're putting members of the NBA. I don't know what position are, but they're working. They're actually on the call at the same time. So I'm guessing they can, effectively remove someone from the call to stop them doing whatever they're doing. But it's a good point. It'd be interesting if they did have the sound, because surely that adds to the experience, doesn't it?
from a fan perspective, it does, but also for the players as well. The atmosphere is what can sometimes be. I keep relating back to football, but I'm sure it's the same in basketball and any other sport. The fan can be that extra player. They can be, the one that pushes you on over the line as such. We have in the UK and on the football that's restarted since the lockdown has eased to some extent over here. On Sky Television and on BT and all other networks, they've added in enhanced sound. So you've had, as a viewer, you can watch it as it is live with no sound and just whatever sounds are in the ground. Or you have it so you have the enhanced sound, which they've actually taken from FIFA, the football game. I'm a fan of that game. Who knew? But
isn't it amazing though? Like the compliments to FIFA, the level of realism for them to be able to use it.
I think at the beginning it was a little bit sketchy because there was always a slight delay. A player would run through, have a shot, and then you'd 2 seconds later hear that, as if the crowd was there. So there were certain games at the beginning where I felt it was a little off and a bit out of sync, but they got better with it as the season kind of came to a close. But it's interesting that you've brought up that story about NBA and Microsoft partnering up for that, because as I say, been watching a lot of football since the restart when lockdown eased. Even as recent as this weekend, I was around a friend's house and a few of us watched the playoff semi-final in one of the lower leagues. Shout out to Boston United who made it through. I know we was there supporting them. And in their ground, they actually had cardboard cutouts of fans in the stand, and I've seen a few other clubs do this where they've had cardboard cutouts of fans that have been sent in to act as almost like a backdrop for the players, which I think is really interesting. But in the last 48 hours, the FA have come out and confirmed that the usual curtain raiser of a new football season is the Community Shield, and that game always takes place at Wembley. And it's been confirmed that that's going to be taking place on the 29th of August. And they're actually discussing it with the government, they may have the first chance for fans to come back to that, which I thought seems really soon. They are looking at, because just to add to that point, the new football season, which starts in September, they're still saying their matches are going to be behind closed doors, as it has been since the restart. But if they manage to get this through at Wembley, which is 80 to 90,000 seat stadium, I believe. If they do get it through, it will be kind of 15 to 20,000 fans there. So they're still going to do the social distancing. Sure. And I believe when they start letting fans come in just on a regular season, it will be at a reduced capacity to start with.
What's the usual capacity?
At Wembley, that'd be a sellout. That'd be an 80 to 90,000.
Wow. So it's significantly less people then, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And it's just going to be interesting to see how because it's still going to be a lot of people, don't get me wrong, but it feels in certain environments, it's an outdoor environment. Yes, it's in a stadium, an open air stadium. There is a roof on Wembley, but it's contractable. So, there's not any other clubs that I can think of off the top of my head that have got a roof in the Premier League, for example. Yeah. So it just seems a bit weird that if you're going to let some in, I know there's question marks about it, and what if everyone wore masks? Would that help the situation? I'm sure that's going to be the case, that all fans have to wear them. Yeah. But I think it's going back to the Microsoft idea of what they're doing. It's innovative that they're doing these sorts of things just to add a chance for the fans to be involved some way if they can. And they're doing it in football, and I'm sure they'll do it in other sports as well. But it's going to be interesting to see how it develops over the next couple of months with things moving and the situation with the pandemic either easing or having potential more waves of it. So especially as we head into winter as well, because we don't know how things are going to pick up from there. But really interesting.
I guess it's quite similar to I've seen friend who had a phone that was I'm sure it's 5G compatible, and I've seen it on the adverts as well, where you view a football match and you can actually look around the stadium. You know, those sort of things exist, and surely if you can merge that with, you know, like what they're talking about with that Teams thing or whatever, and you know, if you can do it one way that you're virtually looking around the stadium and you're sitting in your seat that you would normally attend in, surely they can do it the other way round, that it's, you know, you're capturing what you're viewing, but it's capturing you in some way. And
yeah, they do that. I know Sky, as I watch most of my football on there, they've added that as an extra incentive since it's been restarted with different views. You know, there's so many cameras in and around stadiums now anyway. If you want to see it from behind the goal, they used to do back in the day, and I think they've brought this back in as well, which is player cam, so you can actually follow a player, just whatever he's doing on the pitch.
Isn't it?
Yeah, so I mean, there's certainly room for them to add more elements to it, because fans that would usually be there in the ground can't be there, obviously.
Do you think then, just final question really on that, do you think that eventually it would be preferable to view a sport in that manner? Like it will get to the, like from what you said, you know, you're paying a substantial amount for a season ticket and you're in a particular place, maybe a really good seat, and you're happy with it and so on. But to a certain degree, you're missing some of the action. If you was able to have some sort of setup that you could view it anywhere, like you're watching it at home and something's just happened over there and you're thinking, wow, I want to see what's going on there. And you can immediately flick to that particular angle, or, you know, view it yourself. Amazing. You're not, if you could in some way soak in the atmosphere as well, it's like an enhanced experience, isn't it?
It is incredible what you can do from sitting in your own living room now with regards to watching these sports, just with all these different enhancements that they've added. But there is still something about, it's the magic of being at the game with the atmosphere, the banter that you have with the away crowd, the chanting, and again, just to be there to support your team, whoever you follow, and to try and give them the edge in that respect, which I felt watching the end of this particular football season hasn't helped a lot of teams. You know, the usual going to a smaller ground and a smaller club, the crowd are the ones that kind of make it difficult for the bigger teams. So it's definitely had an impact on the smaller clubs, I believe.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to see what happens with that.